5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to all the witnesses for appearing before this committee on a very important issue. I'm glad that we are examining legislation on an important issue where the Harper Conservatives did little to nothing to address over a decade in the government. My first question is for Mr. Tohti. Mr. Tohti, thank you for being here, and thank you for your relentless advocacy for the Uyghur people. I know it has not been without personal cost. Last year, you told the Ethics Committee about threats you received in July 2020 before your testimony at another parliamentary committee. So could you please talk about that and other ways the Chinese government tries intimidate and silence people like yourself standing up for the human rights of the Uyghur people?
Thank you. As I said, since 1998, I have been living in Canada, and I'm totally isolated from my family members, and I didn't have any chance to visit my mother and all other siblings, and for them, I didn't have any chance to come to Canada and visit me because Chinese government blocked their passport application. So more than 33 years, it is total isolation. I'm alone here in Canada with my own family. And so, as I said, Chinese repression did not stop within its border, and wherever we do advocacy work in Canada or some other places, Chinese extended arms always hunt us. And just before the couple hours testifying before the committee on the Chinese genocidal policy, I received a message very ugly message about my mother. And then just 2 weeks before the parliamentary vote on M62 for resettlement of 10,000 Uyghur refugees, I received a direct call from Chinese state police, just putting my uncle on the end of the phone and threatening me. A number of my family members already dead, and if you continue, you will face the consequence. That kind of the threat. And so last year again, before heading to the conference, the two cars chased, and it was the warning from Canadian officials at the Global Affairs, and we saved our life just because of changing our route. And so this threat is imminent and every day, and this bill in that regard just provides one tool, just combat against those foreign actors.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing what you have gone through. In one of the recent interviews in the Hill Times, you mentioned, most importantly, the legislation clearly defines foreign interference in the criminal code. So can you please speak to why this criminal code amendment is so important?
It means in our legislation or in our bill, there is a name for it, and there is a penalty for it, and there is consequence for it for foreign interference. And for that reason, it is important. Unless we define it, unless we criminalize it, unless we put a certain sanction on certain offenses, we cannot do anything. And that is exactly, for example, there should be some provisions in our law for bullying or intimidation or harassment, but there's no clear definition, especially when it comes to foreign interference. Our law enforcement agency are helpless. With this law, there is a clear definition, and it is a criminalization of that offense. So at least it gives a tool for our law enforcement to act upon it.
Thank you. And how important is that we pass this legislation as quickly as possible in order to ensure full implementation prior to the next election next year?
It is extremely important, and it should be passed immediately because there are a lot of discussions have taken place about the importance of this bill, and we have experience. We already from our neighboring countries and allies, and they had a great deal of experience. And for that reason, this was the loopholes in Canada. We are trying to close it down. It is important that all political parties set aside their differences, just focus on this bill and pass it as soon as possible, and try to make it better down the road, because every 5 years we have a chance to review it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zahid.